Azeem Ibrahim is the director of the Washington-based think tank, the Newlines Institute for Strategy and Policy. Azeem, welcome to the program. So many people that we speak to say that the international community has to do something. Can it actually literally do anything, considering the impasse in the Security Council, considering the fact that Myanmar's generals have already said pretty much we know how to deal with sanctions?
The options for the international community are extremely limited, even to the Biden administration. This is his first foreign policy challenge. They've threatened with sanctions, they've threatened with penalties. But so far, we've seen that even at the international level, at the Security Council, China has used its veto to protect Myanmar. And this was obviously calculated by the generals that this will be forthcoming, that they can actually protect Myanmar from international censure at the Security Council. But options are extremely limited, apart from sanctions, which the generals, as they clearly indicated, this is something that they are willing to weather. The generals have also said that, they just have to get used to the fact that they'll have very little friends on the international stage. So this is certainly anticipated by them, and certainly something that they can probably try to weather as best as they can.
As far as we know, and the numbers almost certainly not exact, almost 60 pro-democracy demonstrators killed by various security forces. But a really interesting line, the 3 police officers are seeking refuge in India because they don't want to follow the orders from their superior officers to crack down. You remember 10 years ago when Hosni Mubarak was forced to step down as the leader of Egypt, it was pretty much because the army turned round to him and said, "Mr. President, enough is enough. We cannot kill any more civilians." Could that possibly be the key in Myanmar? Do you see any likelihood of rank and file officers in the security forces saying, "No, we won't shoot"?
The Tatmadaw, the Myanmar military, is very, very hierarchical. They're extremely loyal to the leadership, and it's very different from the police, which are essentially a civilian force. The Myanmar military is unlikely to actually step out of line within the leadership. I think what we can possibly anticipate is that this is being seen as a serious miscalculation by the military, particularly with the escalating violence that we are now seeing. And this is all being done at the behest of one individual, which is the Army Chief General Min Aung Hlaing. And he essentially, one of the key attributes of this coup was that he was essentially trying to protect himself. He was due to retire later this year, which would have made him a civilian and would have made him liable for prosecution at the International Court of Justice and sanctions against him and his family as well. So he was essentially trying to protect himself. That's certainly one of the motivations. So I think there was possibly other elements in the military that may be very unhappy with this and how things are developing. So I don't think the possibility of a counter coup is out of the realm of possibility at this moment. I think this is something that we may see if this violence simply does not die down in the very near future.
Azeem, what are the nuances of China's relationship with Myanmar's military? Because it's not completely black and white. I mean, while they may be vetoing, and they almost always do anyway, such resolutions inside the Security Council, China doesn't completely 100% support the military. So how does it go about negotiating some kind of future for Myanmar, which is not under a dictatorship?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Adnan. And at the same time, the Myanmar military is also very suspicious of the Chinese and their interest in the region. Myanmar was one of the most closed and one of the most suspicious societies in the world, almost like North Korea is today. And once they opened up, Chinese investment was forthcoming. So China has now strategic and economic interest in Myanmar, which they are not willing to forego. And as long as they are protected, as long as they believe that those interests are protected, I think China will continue to support Myanmar. I think the fact that almost every country around the world condemned the coup, whereas China described it through its official press as a cabinet reshuffle, is very indicative of how they actually seen this. And China needs Myanmar for its global ambitions. This is not just a local or regional issue. China has ambitions to be a global superpower, but before it can become a global superpower, it has to become a regional power, and that means keeping its regional nuclear rival India in check. Access to Myanmar gives China access to the Indian Ocean and the Bay of Bengal. Thus, they can surround India. So there's much larger geopolitical machinations going on behind the scenes, not just purely economic interests that China has in Myanmar.
That's really, really interesting. Azeem, thank you so much indeed. Azeem Ibrahim speaking to us there from Washington.